Welcome to Grimwood City, a place where the veil between the magical and the mundane is as thin as a whisper. 9 districts, each a realm of its own mystery and allure. From the bustling trade at Marble Rock Pier to the arcane secrets of Silkway, Grimwood City harbors both wonder and peril. Here, werewolves, vampires, and mystical beings walk hidden among the ironbound, the ordinary folk. The magical and the mortal coexist, bound by ancient secrets and unspoken truths. The ley lines, a web of arcane energy, converge here, weaving a spell that masks the extraordinary from human eyes. Beneath the city lies a forgotten realm where monsters of old stir in the shadows. Brave adventurers delve into the ancient depths, seeking forbidden knowledge and battling untold horrors. Choose your path in this hidden world. Be an assassin, hacker, holy warrior, priest, medium, wizard, or even a monster hunter. Embrace your true nature, whether it's as a cunning archling, a noble fae, a fierce war creature, a resilient human, or a deadly vampire. In Grimwood City, every shadow hides a tale. Every whisper holds a secret. Are you ready to uncover the truths and face the dangers of this enchanted metropolis? Join us on BackerKit to bring the mysteries of Grimwood City to life. Your adventure awaits.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Geekout. We have a special guest who's going to stick around for us for everything. I know that's not how we normally do it, but I like Andy's opinions, so we're going to have Andy stick around. And absolutely, Kathy, thank you so much for loving the intro art. A lot of it I paid for. Some of it was stock art, but it's definitely, most of it's in the book. So today we have Micah for us. And then we also have
everybody.
Andy from Legendary Tales.
Hey, everybody.
So Andy, why don't you quickly introduce yourself before we jump to news, just so people know who you are and what you're doing.
Sure. Hi, I'm Andy. I'm running a little TTRPG company in North Carolina called Legendary Tales. My game is called Tales of Legend. It's a fantasy TTRPG in the same vein as D&D, Pathfinder, Castles and Crusades, that kind of thing. I'm a lifelong nerd, and with things like Stranger Things and Critical Role and D&D 5e, I got back into the TTRPG field, and my ADHD hyperfocus really got into systems and rules and balance and that kind of thing. And I did a lot of homebrew, and then I did some DM's Guild stuff, and then finally I ended up taking on the big challenge, and now I'm here hanging out with you all and doing my thing. It's really fun.
All right. Well, that's great because Andy's really fun so far. So you guys go to Legendary Tales RPG and you can get a quick starter. Check out his game. It's really, I haven't played it yet, but we did character creation with Andy the other day, and it was intriguing how he manipulates. Like, I made a axe wielding wizard that actually was useful. Yeah, I protest. Andy stole my brain, is what DM Tales says. So let's get to news because there is some, but not much this week. There's very little this week. Well, the first one is that WotC. It's actually good news. Hold your breath.
Yay.
Oh no, we get to the bad news with WotC here too.
Good. Let's start with the good news.
Good news is that they're coming out with a multiversal setting campaign. So it's going to contain Greyhawk, Faerun, and beyond. So it's going to be like a 400-page book that does pretty much all of the. It's called Worlds and Realms. It's gonna like have pretty much everything in it. I think they're overstepping. I think they have too much. They're probably gonna have too much or too little in it to actually run something. It will be hard to say. It is going to be 360 plus pages, so it's possible they cover everything.
But in some of this, I mean, it depends how far back they go to, right? How far back in Forgotten Realms for Faerun? How far back are we going? Are we going all the way back to the beginning of the development of Faerun as a realm, right? So, realm lore. Because that's one thing. Because there's some others that are out there that do a good job of very compact, succinct realms history. But you're right. When you do that, you go broad and you don't go deep.
Yeah. So is it a lore book or is it a campaign setting or is it going to try to be both?
It's going to be like a campaign setting book is what they're saying. So like...
I felt this was more of like a lore and story book than it was.
They literally say it's worlds
campaign book.
It's worlds and setting will be released, so it's more like a worlds book than it's more of a setting book than a campaign book. Like they have their campaign books, which have like every location and stuff like this. I think this is going to be more of like here's a broad spectrum of the world at the current state. Honestly, they haven't said much. It's literally 3 paragraphs on Ian World.
The idea is great. We can finally cast Dream of the Blue Veil.
I just think that they're trying to cram too much into a small book.
Well, they've been criticized a lot lately of publishing things that are all fluff. So maybe they're trying to get...
It's 360 pages. So
so maybe they're trying to make sure they give us content this time. I don't know.
It is big,
right? But on the flip side, it may be just enough to get people interested, and then dive deeper and look for something more detailed, more specific, right?
I think
back into those campaign books.
There should definitely be publications beyond this linked to it. That would be a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Didn't there used to be an old realms map that was like it showed Faerun and like where all those realms were and
realms map.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't imagining.
So the book covers Greyhawk, Mysteria, Dragonlance, Faerun, Eberron, the Feywild, Shadowfell, Spelljammer, the 9 Hells, the Abyss, Signal, and the Far Realm. That's a lot of realms for 360 pages.
So much.
It's just got to briefly touch on each one.
Yeah, how do you do that without turning it into Star Wars, where the entire planet is just a 5-mile radius?
I don't know how. We'll see. It's too much. I agree with you, DM Tales. Oh, thanks for Eliora. Thanks for joining us. I know you're a first-time chatter, so welcome.
Yay.
But it's got a lot in it. I'll be interested in reading it. Don't get me wrong, but it has a lot in it. The next thing that from Hasbro is Chris Cox, the CEO of Hasbro, says he wants to go back to Karator. I probably said that wrong. But it's the like Eastern Asian influence in Faerun. I'm okay with that idea. Let's go back.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Didn't they have?
Go ahead, Mike.
No, it's captured in that article. It talks Oriental Adventures, so that's where I was headed.
That's where it started. So I'll be interested
more
in
flavor is good.
As long as Oriental Adventures has some stuff in it that would be considered racist in modern.
Yeah, they're gonna have to touch it up.
Has to be remastered.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people, certain people talk about how out of place the monks are. So, let's give them That is where it comes from.
Oh, ooh, I didn't see this part of the article. They kind of hit it. Cox also touched the Spanish language translation of D&D in Latin America, because that's been a hot topic because they've got rid of Portuguese books. Indicated there were distribution issues with former licensing agreements in that region. I don't know what that means, but maybe there were some leaks that shouldn't have happened.
When they bring up things like this with character, what are the other realms as well that we haven't dug into in a while that have been dead, maybe, for an extended period of time?
Let's be honest. Faerun itself, only the East Coast has really been covered. The Sword Coast. Let's be truthful.
It's true.
Well, you got, was that Arendelle right in the center there?
We know
with the
all
desert.
the names.
We've done a little bit of that.
Tell me exactly which characters are in there and what they're doing and who leads those lands.
Oh, what's still going on with those? Yeah.
Yeah.
Region-wise, I couldn't
no
tell.
idea.
Environment,
By
I
the
could.
way,
Region.
When it comes to Faerun, they've got new audience now. Your BG3 crowd knows what that is.
Well, they know what the
Whereas
Sword
you have
Coast
a
is.
large chunk of D&D fans who know nothing about lore, period. But now you have a new group of people who at least know about the Sword Coast.
I am totally confused on how they're going to convert Greyhawk into a non-racist, non-segregated
I thought they would never touch Greyhawk again. I'm going to be honest. Good luck, guys.
100%.
Well, I know.
Claps on if you can
plan on
handle
touching
it, if
Greyhawk
you can
again.
do it. Because it's pretty bad. So, but that being said, let's talk about the bad, or what people are calling bad. I don't think personally it's bad, and that's my opinion. So we all know this cover that we're seeing here. It's a common cover. It's the first edition Red Dragon cover.
Classic.
They've converted it and put in a female warrior, which I think is fine. But oh my god, is it sparking controversy in D&D world?
Now,
Did they? So from the article, did they change? They didn't change the art. They changed the interpretation of the art.
The interpretation of the art.
Exactly.
Right. So
if they had redone
my only
the
question
art with a female character that's blatantly written to be a female character, we wouldn't have this same backlash.
How does it affect the lore? That's the big question, because that's where a lot of change will happen. A lot of your detail-oriented players.
I 100% agree with you, but that is not what the controversy.
What does it really impact?
That is not what the controversy is arguing.
I agree.
Right.
The controversy is just saying it's female. Why? And
the problem is you're not going to get the defenders that you think you're going to, because it looks like tokenism. This is a piece of art that already existed that was assumed to be male for a long time, and instead of putting in actual work for representation, they just went back and said something retroactively, and it just seems like feminist tokenism, which is not actually doing anything. You're not doing anything bold.
DM Tail says that LM, the artist, also said, yeah, I painted it as a man, and people's interpretation of the art changes over time. So, but I don't think this should be a controversy. I think people are looking for controversy on this. Because you could never see...
It's changed.
You didn't see the front of the character. It's changed.
Yeah. If you were going to do it, you should have done it better than that. If you wanted more representation, there were better ways to do it.
You could have changed the perspective. You could change everything. I mean, they changed a lot, don't get me wrong. It's clearly a little bit different.
But yeah, I think a lot of the people who are upset about this are upset at gender swapping comic characters and things like that.
I understand why they're upset. I do not agree with their upset. sent this. And as far as the artist was concerned, I mean, interpretation of art changes over time, is what he said. So it sounds like he's not super upset about it. Nowhere in the article
He's a
does it
normal
actually
guy.
talk about it, but I,
It's the perfect storm to get the people who like to be triggered. That they just did. They did not accomplish what they wanted to.
I like the new art. I think the new art looks decent. They
Yeah.
updated the lighting and the rendering of it to make it a little bit more modern. I don't see a problem with it, and maybe that's just my liberal views. But so yeah, so that's my opinion. Okay, that's enough about WotC. I'm not a big WotC fan. We all know that I'm anti-WotC.
I got to say, if that's the worst thing we have to talk about, WotC, they did pretty good this week, huh?
Sure did, because last week it was not the case. So the next thing in news is Paizo shares that they're releasing new adventures and gears up for PaizoCon 2024. They're doing Hallow of the Wind, which seems to be a in-depth of a wilderness area. I don't know the Pathfinder stuff too well.
Yeah, I don't know
won't
anything about
lie.
the lore specific
They
things.
also announced that there's an Adventure Path Mechadon coming for their Starfinder series.
Mhm.
And Abomination Vaults campaign, which makes its debut in Dungeons and Dragons fifth edition, but they're bringing it to Pathfinders. So
I love how all their good ideas they just go ahead and publish in both systems. That's fantastic.
yeah, so I'm kind of like I'm okay with this, but we all know that Paizo seems to be not doing what WotC is doing.
Yeah,
Which is stabbing themselves in the back with a dagger.
gamers know better.
Cubicle 7, who's well known for their Warhammer stuff,
Warhammer.
announced that they're going to be releasing a new update for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and Warhammer 4000 Wrath and Glory. So I'm kind of excited for this because I'm not a Warhammer fan, but I kind of am. Like, I couldn't tell you if you pit like 10 questions from the lore, I would not know a thing about it. But I know the basis of like what the lore is.
So I'm that person that I have like 2 or 3 friends who are super into Warhammer, and they'll tell me stories from like the novels and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds really cool.
How do we?
Don't know where I would start, so I'm just not going to.
It's been around forever.
I think part of the problem is how disconnected everything is, right? They don't have like a unified, because it's a game, but then like
Right.
this novel says this and this comic says, and like, but those people, man, the people who research it, they keep it straight, and it's a crazy lore.
It is a crazy lore, and they definitely do have a pathway of that lore. Did it start out with a pathway? I don't think so, but it clearly has a pathway now. That they're changing, which was a whole issue 2 weeks ago. But
Sorry.
that being said, simple, easy enough. Last major news thing is that Final Fantasy 14 is getting a reprint of the TTRPG.
That's cool.
I've never played the original TTRPG, so I couldn't tell you if it's good or bad.
I know the game is still incredibly popular.
Yeah.
The actual video game is very popular.
Yeah.
And according to this article, it's getting reprinted due to demand. So I'm assuming the TTRPG is getting is people like it too. So I'm not a big Final Fantasy person.
I've
Oh, and
played
it's
a couple of the games. I liked them, but I don't know the lore.
all that too for $60.
Yeah,
That's great.
and it's coming out in September. I think
And
they
because
said.
it is such a strong lore, it makes a good entire
Yeah.
setting and system.
Right. Their games always feel like it's done world first, right? We do world first and then build down and in.
Right.
So I don't
So
know who
they're always so
actually
detailed.
publishes this game. Is it Square Enix actually doing the tabletop?
No way, right?
Well,
So I'm on the Square Enix site. That's what I was trying to find was who, if it's all still just Square Enix, but I don't see any other
yeah,
company.
Square Enix store. It's right in their store.
They have a
Yeah.
tabletop department? That's
I
crazy.
guess so.
Okay.
That was not something I knew. And thank you,
Yeah.
Rossi, for thank you. I appreciate it. And monkeying around, thank you for the affiliate. It's been a year, and I've actually done something. So I feel like I've done something at least. So, I don't. So awesome. Let's see here. What else? That's it for news. But
Okay.
I do have some good Kickstarters this week. The first being there is a company who is kickstarting and they're almost to their goal.
Ooh.
A tactical game that's kind of Call of Cthulhu ish,
Really? What a
but
combo.
it's Roman our Empire type
Yeah.
area.
Wait.
So it's
Roman Empire, Call of Cthulhu, and then it's a tactics game?
a tactics game, yeah.
Dude.
So I'm 100% on board with this, and it's from the people who brought you Fallout Tactics and our Cthulhu and the other Scrolls Tactics. So it's not like it's not an unknown. It's Modifius, so it's not unknown. So I'm all for this.
What a crazy idea. Wow.
Like you can get the digital print STLs and print them yourself.
That looks so good.
Right.
And it looks amazing. Like I'm all for this.
The idea sounds like an edgy indie video game developer idea. And the fact that it's going to be tabletop instead, that makes me so happy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we have some good ones this week, and this is one of the good ones. And I don't know if I've published this correctly, so I am going to put it in chat. But that is a link to all of the links for this today. I think I forgot to put it on the actual information. So the other one that we have is an adventure double feature called The Merry Mushroom by the Merry Mushman. It sounded interesting. It's the Horrendous Hounds of Hindenburg and the
I
Raiding
love
the
alliteration.
Obsidian
Those-
Keep. It looks interesting. I'm all for new adventures, and I'm one that if it's written for a system, I'm more than willing to convert it to another system if need be.
Hmm.
It looks like one of these looks like it's hex exploration as well.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. This is very hex.
For the Hindenburg? Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have like the Obsidian Keep has like a keep map. It looks super awesome. They're looking at getting why does it we roll like it's 80s, so they're talking about like 80 maps. I'm all for this. This was another one that I would definitely back if I wasn't strapped for cash lately.
So many cool ideas, so little time.
All right, this one is just a personal thing. There's not enough minis that are modern day. And I know this isn't modern day, but you could use it you could use it as modern day.
Specifically World War II Russian soldiers. That's interesting.
Exactly. It's specifically World War II Russian soldiers. Like, where are you going to find this? Like,
This person saw a need in the community and filled in the niche.
And this is just volume 1, so they must have plans for other soldiers in World War II.
That's true. You really can't
The rest of
find
the Axis and Allies.
settings.
So, like, I'm totally on board with this because it is so hard to find soldiers. It is so hard to find modern day. As a person who does a lot of modern day shit, because I do, it is hard to find models for modern day stuff.
When they advertise it, do they specifically talk about that? How it's meant to be Russian
no,
soldiers?
they're talking about World War II, and it's supposed to be historically accurate. But I mean, you could easily
you're broadening their market now, so good for you.
You could easily put this in modern day. And like
no, they look great.
The add-ons are German tanks, and German troop soldiers, so they already have an experience with putting out stuff. So they have a German soldier version too. I'm totally sold on this. It definitely will probably be something on next paycheck that I purchase, because I have a 3D printer and I need modern day stuff. Okay, this one was interesting. This is called the self-watering wet palette. So I like wet palettes quite a lot. And what it does is it has grooves in it that allows the water to filter up to the sponge and water itself. It has a cover with it, so you can cover it. It comes with a couple of the unlocks is a stamp, so you can cut out a sponge for it. It right now it screams to me as something I want as somebody who's just starting out in the painting world.
Yeah. After you sent out the list for this evening, as soon as I saw this same thing, I shot it over to 3 or 4 good buddies that do a lot of painting. It was like, hey, this might be of interest.
To me, it's something that I personally would use. This is one I am definitely backing. How long do I have? Because I have 27 days.
Yeah,
so
you
I'm
got time.
Definitely backing this one. And that it has a cover is a neat thing, and it has like extensions for a cup and a pencil holder that's snap into place on the sides for you.
Man, that should blow up.
It's super awesome. I'm super excited about this. It's definitely on my list. They even have a time frame of like when they're thinking it's going to be available. So, you do have to have a 3D printer, because I don't think they have a thing here where you actually get the. No, you just get the files.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer because, let's be honest, it would be probably something that would sell.
If they wanted to kickstart that for a much higher price and take on the shipping, this thing could blow up.
Become your Blender button. You can receive a 3D printer files for personal use for $22. If you want commercial use, it's $109. That's still not bad for commercial use. You think about $109.
Well, the problem is now somebody's going to take their amazing idea and they're going to sell it, and they only paid $100.
Correct. I agree. But it's something that I'm probably going to purchase. For my
it's a cool idea.
Use.
Yeah.
The Actinium Infinitium is item compendium for 5e.
Ooh.
It's going to have 8+ mini adventures, 100+ illustrated magical items, 8+ new subclasses, 16 battle maps, and 6+ epic boss encounters.
This
So-
is the kind
Yeah.
of supplement I always want. It is
I say with-
just content.
And like you
Right.
can get the Astro Adapt, which actually gives you cards for them.
Wow.
Yep.
So I'm all for this system.
Yes, that's great.
I'll have to say though, whenever I purchase these type of Kickstarters, it's usually not for the adventures. The magic items are really cool, but it's usually not for. It's honestly for the subclasses. I enjoy
yes.
seeing what else are we doing, how else
invite
are we trying to
anything
do it,
from
and
this.
and did we balance it well?
And that's what you need to do is you take a chance on one product from a company or a person you don't know, and if it's balanced, great. I'm now going to look
Yep.
at everything they ever do.
So they're gonna have
Yep.
the Way of the Internal Flame Monk, the Tide Hunter Ranger, and the Sand Shifter Sorcerer. At least
Neat.
the ones they label, and they all look really like the art is amazing.
Yeah.
Art is so important in my opinion. But that's my opinion. That being said, the next one is again modern freaking STLs.
Oh wow.
This one has realistic city things. So you have street lights, you have city benches, you have bridges, you have cones, you have trash bins.
Now, when either of you play face to face, how detailed do you all like to get with your maps?
Well, I have a 3D printer, so I tend to get pretty detailed.
Right, of course.
Mine's
if you had a
usually
hammer,
just
you
a
would-
battle map. That subtle blending somewhere between mind and what's physically there. So enough figurines and enough things there to understand location placement, timing, and then usually not a whole lot deeper than that, unless it came with actual detailed battle maps.
DM Tail
yeah,
says
for me,
see,
it is a grid and dry erase.
DM's Tail says he either dry erase or digital map. I for
And I like theater of the mind on this. That's part of it.
for Excelsior, I still can't
Just
say it.
sneeze
Details.
partway through. Just start with the E and then sneeze.
Excelsior.
And then say con.
Excelsior. Excelsior.
worked.
I can't say it. I have tried a million times. I've said it right once. Anyways, for that, I actually went to Staples and I had them print out a 24x36 map for my stuff because I was traveling
I'm
8
sure that-
hours. I didn't want to travel with a TV or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I definitely did that. So okay. Okay, this one's personal. Bruce is a friend
It's
of
still
mine. This is Mistmore. Mistmore is a fantasy horror campaign and setting, and he's coming on the show next week. But he has started. He's already got his goal. He's already funded. It's a, like I said, fantasy horror campaign. It's basically made for EZD6 or Shadowrun, but it's actually system agnostic, so you could play it in any system. And he has music to go with it. Like if he's working on music to go with it. I've managed to play a couple playtests of it. It's really fun. It's very scary. Well, scary as TTRPGs can get. It's creepy, and that's what's important in a horror.
Social
Right.
contract. I consent to being scared.
Right.
Don't be that wet blanket at the table if you're doing horror.
It's a very low magic system.
I like those.
He has a lot of cool NPCs in it, and they're based off like actual people in the TTRPG world. Like we have DM Scotty as a sorcerer. We have I'm trying to think of who else there was. I can't remember. But basically, he has a lot of the TTRPGs as NPCs. But
That's
as
cool.
you can see, it's very Call of Cthulhu horror
Mhm.
driven. And it's really reasonably priced for for $8 you can get the digital version. 8 Canadian, so $6 American. If you wanted to get the rights to also purchase a book, I think it's 16 is where that starts. And he's
Wow.
doing everything through drive-through, so you get the book at cost, print costs. Um,
Okay.
so uh, very fun system. I really enjoyed playing what I played on it. Okay, another one because I've met him at PAX Unplugged. Vast Grim is a I have Vast Grim. It's somewhere in there in that mess. It's a Morkborg like sci-fi Morkborg game. Well, he's coming out with 3 different expansions for it, and they're different. Like they have different feels for it. They're all still sci-fi, but there's like one that's punk based. There's one that's more horror based. Um, it's freaking terrifying. You talking DM Tales? Are you talking about Mistborn, or are you talking about Morkborg? Because I know you're delayed. Um, but the graphics are amazing. Vashgrim. Yes, it is scary. Um, but basically, think aliens. Um, I'm trying to think what else. Dead Space. That's a good one. Dead Space.
Oh, okay.
Dead Space is this game. Um,
That's pretty. That's pretty creepy.
so like, it's gonna have ever shifting dungeon crawls in it. It's it's totally in my thing where I'm gonna probably back it. I just have to wait for the next paycheck type deal. I know I have a couple of those. It's okay. I'll get them. Um, but like there's infected expansions. It looks great. I'm excited for that. Another interesting one. So there's this game called Outgun. It's by
Mm-hmm.
Two Little Mice. Outgun is an action-based game that is based off spies. It's based off action movies. Think John Wick for
Okay.
TTRPG. It uses Yahtzee as its mechanic system. So you, based on the number of uh, pairs that you have, is the number of successes that you get. If you get Yahtzee, it's specialized. If you get all all the same dice, it's also very specialized. Something special happens. Um, but they're coming out with an Indiana Jones version adventure of that same system.
That
I'm
tracks.
I'm 100% on board with this.
That's such a cool idea.
I will eventually have Outgunned on my channel. I want to get a playthrough of that because I own the system, but I've not played it yet. Um, so that's on my list of things. Uh, so 8-Bit Adventures uh, is a TTRPG that does like 8-bit type video game type stuff. I've never seen it, never looked at it, never touched it. But they're coming out with the Fugnal Realms, which is basically Mario for it.
That's Oh.
This
okay.
one doesn't start until 6 days from now, but it's basically Mario for TTRPGs, without actually being Mario because of copyright laws.
That's interesting.
It's
I'll
really
say.
interesting.
So I'm interested in seeing what this is like. There's going to be inside the rulebooks. They're going to have new mounts for dinos and go karts. Three new playable races. The caplings, the cokelings, and the gorillas. 10 new magical items. 12 story arcs. 15 iconic. Up to 9 printable miniatures and optional rules for 8-bit adventure. I don't know if have you done anything with 8-bit adventure DM Tales? Have you looked into it at all? I have not. It's on
I I have one very important question. Can
yes.
I roll to jump on the mic in its head?
Good question. I don't have an answer for you.
I want to know.
Um, I didn't know it even existed until this Kickstarter, this BackerKit.
I love the idea. I know nothing about it, but the idea is incredible.
Another one that's coming out soon is called the Iron Heart. It's supposed to be like a cozy solo lo-fi mech TTRPG. So it's supposed to be a solo RPG. It's supposed to be like not very stressful. Not like ooh, thank you, AG.
Who?
So it looked interesting, so I placed it on here. We'll find out more when it starts in 27 days.
Oh, there it is. Parable games.
Yeah, Parable Games.
The art reminds me a lot of Lancer. Is why I was curious. I mean, this is a little bit more abstracted than Lancer is, but the
I have no
kind of
idea.
the book layout and art made me think of that.
I haven't had time to watch that video. It's on my list of videos to watch probably tomorrow. DM Tales. And the last one, and this one is I already announced it on this campaign, but I wanted to double make sure that people knew. This is a heroic role-playing game. It uses kind of like the old DCC style comic, like chart-based D100 system style play. It's a little bit different, but it's looks like it could be fun. So that being said, we are done with everything on news and Kickstarters.
That was fun.
That's pretty much what I do. We do on a weekly basis is go through the news and go through any kind of Kickstarters that we think might be fun. That being said, Andy, it's time to talk about your game.
Oh boy.
So, you're making a setting agnostic sort of fantasy game.
Yeah, the idea is that whatever fantasy game you want to make, what I've given you is like a backbone, a mechanical backbone, and then you go nuts.
So why not just make it system agnostic and a setting agnostic in general, and just do a whole mechanical system? I mean, you're only missing a few things.
Yeah, the only thing about it is I could only make it so agnostic, and I had to stop at, is it going to be fantasy? And that came for two reasons. One is I think when you get into weapons versus spells and guns and lasers, and so sci-fi versus fantasy mechanically, that can break down a lot. And the other one is I feel like fantasy is the only major genre that most people in the Western world have a shared understanding of what that is. Whereas if I wanted to make a setting agnostic sci-fi game, I don't think we can do that because you have Star Trek sci-fi, you have Star Wars sci-fi. There's a lot of different versions of. There's no amalgamation that everybody kind of agrees on when it comes to like sci-fi, for example. But for fantasy, you can get away with that for sure.
100%. So why don't we go through, because I just kind of jumped into that question. I'm sorry. Let's go through and
That's all right.
talk about the game itself. So it's fantasy based, but you do interesting things where you're like, it's very, it borrows heavily from 5e, from what I saw.
I come from a 5e background. I haven't played as many other TTRPGs as I would have wanted, and when I have, I've spread out to other fantasy settings. I mean, look behind me.
Yeah.
Fantasy is sort of my number one thing.
Stick
And
around
so,
here, you'll
yeah.
play some modern games.
I'd love to. I really would. But yeah, that's
Um,
my wheelhouse is turn-based fantasy and even video games. That's what I grew up on.
So, okay, I'm
Mhm.
going to ask you a really strange question. What's your favorite part about the system, and what's your least favorite part about the system?
My favorite part about the system, I think. So I totally made a system that works for me as an individual, right? My favorite part about the system is how easy it is to navigate certain things versus other games I played. For example, the hero table. There's not a class table for 12 classes. Again, I'm going to talk about 5e because that's my biggest experience. There's a singular class table or a hero table that I can reference and know everything I need to know at a glance. That is probably my favorite thing about the system. My least favorite thing about the system. That's a fantastic question. I think my least favorite thing about the system is how it is unapologetic in its audience, in the sense of if you are
Hold on one sec.
there's-
I absolutely clicked on the wrong thing, and they lost some of that conversation. Say that one more time.
which part?
What your least favorite part? They heard
my
everything.
my
up to
least
that.
favorite part. My least favorite part is if you're a brand new TTRPG person, especially if you're going to be the game master, the fact that it is completely setting agnostic, it does none of the lifting for you when it comes to conceptual things. So if you don't have a strong sense of fantasy, what your fantasy is, what your character concept is, what your game master's world is, you could probably get lost pretty quick because by design it gets out of your way so you can do your own thing. And I think that's tough for some people.
Absolute Kathy says getting to attack more each turn and more actions and violence is better. Rogue
At level
token.
1, at level 1, especially if you have a ranged weapon, you can take the attack action twice, and that's less missing and more fun.
So I'm showing the hero development table on screen. I have a really weird question.
Okay.
So why did you decide to go with 2d4 instead of 1d8s? Or 1d6 plus 1d4s instead of 1d10s?
Believe it or not, I have found in all the times that I have played like 5th edition with brand new people, because I'm a forever DM, the dice paralysis that people will have is crazy. People don't know the difference between a D8 and a D10, and people don't know the difference between a D12 and a D20. And so even though if you've got it in your head, the D20 is everything until you roll damage. That should be easy. I find people are just scrambling all the time. And so you play Tales of Legend with a single D20, 2d6s, and 2d4s. And that is all you have. Also, the average bumps up mathematically by 1, and I like that.
It does. It is rolling multiple dice always increases averages a little bit.
Not only that, it's fun to roll multiple dice, which is funny because I said you only have 5 dice, but whatever.
So it's a roll over system, correct?
Yes.
So it's very much in D&D in that aspect. Like it rolls,
If you
roll
meet
over
or
a target,
exceed,
meet
yeah.
or receive a target number. Or well, you call them. I should use your terminology, not my terminology. Um, do you call them target numbers? What do you call them?
It depends. So you have aspect rolls or
Aspect.
accuracy rolls.
Difficulty rolls, yeah.
And
Okay.
then yeah, if you're doing like skills, they're called difficulty rolls. I think difficulty class is actually a very weird term for especially brand new people.
I love that both of our systems use weird dice.
I like weird
Because-
dice.
I'm a D12. I'm a D12 system. Nobody uses a D12 system.
Yeah.
Um,
I fell in love with D4s. I don't know why. I did a homebrew thing where it was a bow, and instead of a D8, it was 2D4, and the person who got the bow was like, "I hate this," and then like 2 hours later, I love this.
the only thing good about a D4 is throwing it at the DM when he screws you over.
Mm. Oh, and if you buy the ones that are sharp, oh my god.
I say they're nice caltrops. Yeah, absolutely.
So the system in general doesn't have a class structure per se. So
Correct.
Andy took me through not just me, but several other people. He took me through first level character generation the other day. And you get these things called heritages that basically you have the mortal heritage, which is basically any of your mortals: elves, dwarfs, halflings. Am I missing one? Any of your common humanoid races.
Yeah, and it sort of
Mon-
depends because again, if you wanted to open up and play like, okay, this is going to be a deep cut, but like Legends of Dragoon is one of my favorite games. So is Breath of Fire. These are old school video game RPGs. If you wanted to make a TTRPG using that system, cool. Well, in Breath of Fire, you have like harpy people, but they're just people. They're not their own thing. So mortal is a much bigger catch on than just human. It's who are your normal people, whatever they are.
Dan from Avenue Studios says, "Hooray, huzzah for Tales of Legend."
Yay! Thanks, Dan.
So basically, you have mortal, you have bestial, you have elemental, you have monstrous, and blessed and fairy. Curse, magical, half life, and psionics.
Yep. My idea was to try to hit every conceivable
Type of genre, archetype.
Yeah. And I've actually come up with 2 more, but they're going to come into a supplemental product.
Excellent.
And by the I don't know. So, go ahead.
You're instead of having 6 different stats, you have 4.
Yes. Again, I'm coming from a D&D Pathfinder kind of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Charisma, wisdom, and intelligence. I mean, if you're used to it, you're used to it and you don't think about it. But honestly, that's a mess.
It is kind of a mess. Yes, I agree as an anti-D&D person.
So, physicality is like strength and constitution put together. The physical body, your toughness. Again, I hate to keep comparing to those games, but constitution doesn't do much. It doesn't even need to be a thing.
It's just there for health points.
Yeah. So, your general stockiness can be your physical strength and your durability. So that's physicality. Then grace is pretty much dexterity. I mean, you've got to have that statistic. But then there's a singular magic stat aspect called focus. And that can be however you want to interpret what that is. And there are even a couple of options under focus that don't make you a spellcaster, but like maybe increases your mental defense or something like that, that even your martial characters would want. And then last but not least is big S skill, which goes into skills.
Oh, we should... I gotta put you...
Yeah, I like that your grace isn't just about strictly the accuracy perspective of dexterity, right? But it's also about the overall, the balance, the coordination, kinesthesiology, if you will, right? And so it rolls all of that physical aspect into the trait.
Hopefully that would mean that for the game master or legend master running the game, that it becomes really easy to figure out what statistic you're calling for when you're just calling for a d20 roll of some kind.
Right.
To interrupt real quick, just so everybody knows, we are going to be playing Andy's game on Avenue Studios, and that is the link to their YouTube channel. They also have one for Rumble, but I quickly look it up. Is it Saturday? Oh crap!
It's Saturday. Yep.
It's this Saturday. We're gonna be playing
It's
this
this
Saturday.
This is a busy week. This is a busy week.
It's a busy week for me. Yes. So if you don't follow them on YouTube, go follow them on YouTube. They do some really great stuff over there.
Just shout out to you guys for doing that. You play games that not a lot of people hear about. That's such an important niche.
I play a lot of games that people don't ever hear about. To the detriment of the channel. Honestly, if I was doing D&D 5e, I probably had more followers.
What's there left to be said about 5e? I love the game. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but what's left to be said?
Don't get me started. I can go on for a long time.
Understand.
About things, and I love playing D&D, but I do not like running D&D. So
One of the
go
one of the approaches you have in here that I thought was really cool, and you keep it throughout all of it, right? And that's that, like we were talking earlier, the groupings, if you will, instead of saying everything very specific, just that broad grouping. So, like when we look at skills, conceal, detect, knowledge, search, social, not the 6 different things that could be social or the 14 different knowledges there are, but just that very broad approach to it.
I think it should free up the headspace of the game master a little bit. To me, when I look at Arcana, history, it's all the same thing. It's knowledge. And you just decide, okay, is this character going to be good at this particular kind of knowledge? I'll adjust the difficulty based on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you require the players to identify anything deeper than that? Like, so knowledge, and then they have to write something out there and what that knowledge is, general terms, maybe not specified game terms, right? But like a general term out there, or is it just?
Yes. So
okay.
As you know, when I run the game, what I like to do, I do the same thing for languages. Languages is not gamified in this game. I mean, quite frankly, it's not gamified in any system I've ever seen. So if you were playing generic Fantasyland and you're like, my character is an elf, I'm going to say, okay, you probably know the common tongue and the language of the elves, and ta-da, you gave me a good reason. So for knowledge, the exact same thing. If you are a cleric, a holy person, you're going to have a lot of religious knowledge, and you're probably not going to know if the plant's going to be poisonous or not.
Okay.
Or you might roll there high, and you're like, yeah, I do know that.
So the hit points in your system are called resolve. Is there a reason for that? Like
So I know that for most of these systems, for those of us who play these games, we know what hit points are supposed to represent, but the wording is not helpful. So they'll even tell you in all of our fantasy TTRPG books that hit points doesn't mean you're supposed to be getting physically hit every single turn. Every time something beats your physical defense, it is you're getting tired out, and your willpower is being shaken. And then when you hit 0, that's when you get like the mortal wound, like the actual wound. But you'll see it in Let's Plays all the time, the big famous ones. They talk about how, okay, that did 40, you have over 100 hit points. That did 46 hit points. The spear's through your gut. That makes no sense. And I think part of that is the word hit points. So by calling it resolve and saying, yes, it is your resolve to fight, it might be a minor cut on your cheek, or it hits you, but you still parried it with your shield, but it exhausts you. And then once your resolve hits 0, boom, that's the idea.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
your magic system. Do you want to describe your magic system because it's unique?
It's unique. So this was the one thing I tried. I tried to make everything so broad, so just the backbone, right? But with a magic system, it's like a sci-fi setting. You can't be completely agnostic. There needed to be a magic system. So when I look at most media, I am not thinking in D&D or Pathfinder or anything like that. When I look at most fantasy media, people turn on their magical abilities and they go pew pew. They just go. So in Tales of Legend, you have what's called your magic source. I will not tell you what that magic source is. That is not my job. That is not the game's job. That is up to your legend master, how that world works. But whatever your magic source is, and even if you wanted to do more like a D&D generic thing, like, okay, Warlock is the patron and the sorcerer is the origin and all that good stuff, right? Whatever your magic source is, you tap into that magic source. And then for the next 10 rounds, 1 minute, you're infused with whatever your magical source is, and you can just go. Now, for people who are very used to these other fantasy TTRPGs like D&D and Pathfinder, their first thought is, no spell slots, isn't that overpowered? The limiting factor in Tales of Legend is the action economy itself. So at level 1, you only have 2 action points. And at level 2, you have 3. But at the end of the game, you have 6. And so to cast a spell, to start casting a spell, will take 1 action point. For every action point you put into that spell, you are ranking that spell and adding an extra effect. There are only 10, I've got 2 more in the works. There are only 10 spells in the game that have a list of extra added on features that you can rank into the spell. So there is a spell called Magic Attack. There's your magic spell. There is your damaging spell. There's your Fireball. There's your Blizzard. There's your Eldritch Blast. There's your Light Whip.
Magic
I don't
Missile.
know what you're going to call it. Magic Missile. Like, I'm trying to even absurd things, whatever you want to call it. I create a little black hole and I put my fist through it. It punches you in the face on the other side of the map. I don't care how you call it. That is your magic attack. And then under that are 5 different options, and each of those 5 options scale with extra ranks to turn that into a wall of fire, a fireball, a whatever you want that to be. So there's a lot of customization options based in the moment, what that spellcaster sees on the battlefield and what they want to do. And if they want to tap into their magical source, not in combat, to fly around real quick or something, okay, you get 1 minute per magic tap, and the number of times you can tap per day is equal to that focus score. So you're either going to be a heavy spellcaster and do that all day, or you're going to be a half caster or even a 1/3 caster. Maybe you're. I love the idea of like a spell sword person, but they only have like 1 or 2 taps a day, and they turn their sword to be like a flaming sword and like do their thing. They're mostly a martial character.
Chat talked about your initiative. I see that you kind of go with like a it's almost like a pirate Borg type initiative.
Yeah, a little bit. I noticed that it's really lopsided in combat when like all the monsters go at once. That's either really bad for the monsters or really bad for the players. And so you have to go good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy, like that. Which I think when you think about what is supposed to be represented in turn-based combat, which is all these things are, if you were looking at it on screen, all of these things would be resolving at the same time.
Correct, yeah.
Doing it that way, I think represents that way better than all the monsters act at once in like the middle of the initiative order, and yeah, that kind of thing. I think that makes more sense.
I do have a question on that.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you have a big giant monster that versus five characters? Like, how do you handle that in your system?
So that comes out in the creature bonuses. So the word that we use is bonus. So physicality bonus, that is a feature that you grab. It's like a feat.
I want everybody to know I did tell him beforehand I did not get to the creature section in the book.
Creatures have way more options than the
Yeah.
heroes do, and one of them, it's not. I think it's actually in the supplemental book, but in my I get to use my supplemental material when I run games. It's called adaptable, which is when you are outnumbered by this much, you get this many turns, not extra action points, turns.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you broke out your character sheet in 3 pages, and those 3 pages have specific like usages in the game.
Yeah.
So like your page 1, like you want to break that down because it's your character sheet really is crucial to your system from what I saw.
Yes, and everybody can look at the character sheet. It is a free download on the website. The first page is your general everything that you would need just going out in the world. If you are a experienced TTRPG player at all, the vast majority of your session is not done in combat. It's done just walking around the world. So what do you need? You need to know what your stats are. You need to know how much money you have. You need to know what kind of gear you have. That sort of thing. So page 1 is here's me walking around the world. This is my general stats. When you go to page 2, that is combat specific. So I really like this because when you play a TTRPG, you're playing 2 games. You're playing the role play game, and then you go into bullet time turn-based combat. So you have a page for one and a page for the other. Nice. So you have your resolve, you have your physical and mental defense, you have your walking speed, you have your action points. There are lists of the different actions you can take, so you don't have to scramble through the book. And status effects actually become a bigger part of this game. And so you're going to want to know when you have it, when you don't, you can just do a quick toggle. And it's really helpful for this because it's a modifiable PDF document. So you don't have to print it out and like mark erase. You can just click, which is super, super helpful. And then right there in the middle, the big thing that you care about the most, your combat options. That's a little broad because is it a weapon? Is it a spell? Is it a tail that you have? I don't know what your character's going to do. So, yeah. And then the third and fourth page is magic and just a list of whatever bonuses you picked as you've leveled up.
Nice. I think it's broken out really well.
Thank you. I have to get the dog.
Okay, go ahead. I agree with you on Avenue Studios. I think AP systems are really clear in structure, and they give nice flexibilities.
Well, thanks.
Let's see. You have any other questions, Mike?
No, just some of the comments. So I like the aspect bonuses, right? So for every point you put in, looking at your aspect bonuses makes it real simple. I don't get, do I get one every 3? Do I get one every 5?
Every single time.
Do I trade in an aspect point to get a bonus? What do I got to do with that? It just makes it straightforward, if you will, on how you select those. And then, so like Dave talked earlier, kind of the class structure. You have X amount of points here and X amount of points here. Here's a bonus you get. But that's the same thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Well, I kind of lost where I was going there for a second.
That's all right. But yeah, it happens all the time.
You get one aspect point, you get one bonus. It's just 1 and 1 and 1. And it's 1 and 1 and 1 because, again, if you've played a lot of these kind of like D&D based games, right, you have the score and you have the modifier, which are 2 different things. Why? So the score is the modifier. And no one asked for this, but there's no negatives. There's no negative numbers.
I like that. I'm all about using math. As we
and then your races level up with you, right? So as you level up, you get additional bonuses for.
Yeah, actually, can we look at the hero sheet?
Yeah,
It's
sure,
going to
hold on.
be
Give me a sec.
lower. Yeah, yeah.
And
So
I think
every
it's
single
on
one
the
of the
final heritage bonus. Is that what you wanted
yeah,
to look at?
yeah. So the heritage bonuses come on odd numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, but the system caps out at 15. And so,
Right.
what do you do for the other odd numbers? We have what are called archetype bonuses. So when you get into the advanced stages of the game, about level 9 sounds about right. Since we go to 15, you get to, based on what your aspect spread is, you can grab an archetype bonus. For example, the warrior. In Tales of Legend, you can only take the same action up to twice per turn. So even though you're gaining more action points, you can't just attack 6 times at high levels. That's too crazy. But another thing I really enjoy is how these are very short sentences that mechanically change a lot. So in a game where you can only take 2 of the same action, the warrior archetype bonus is you have to have at least 6 points in physicality. You can attack 3 times per turn. Huge, but it's so simple. So those are the big game breaking
Yeah, that
bonuses.
would definitely change the system quite a bit.
And that's what you would expect when you get to the archetype bonuses. They're called archetypes for a reason. There's the crafter, which, okay, now you can make magic items. Oh, so that's the game has now changed for my character because my character has
Right.
gone into being like an expert in what their thing is.
So, is there anything that you would like that we didn't cover that you would like people to know about your system?
Oh, yeah, there is one other thing. 2 actually, but they're related. I like martial characters. I love spellcasting too, but I really, really like martial characters. And the eternal conflicts for fantasy TTRPGs has been balancing martials versus casters.
Right.
So in my game, the casting is down a little bit in power. Not by a whole lot, but a little bit in power. The magic is not, you can do whatever you want. And the martial abilities are up quite a bit. So yeah, a high level magic person putting all of their ranks in a magic attack, you still have to roll to hit, and if it hits, it's going to do so much damage. It's not even funny. But your martial characters, especially the melee martial characters, deal so much more damage. In damage, it's melee followed by ranged followed by magic in damage. And then also on the weapon front, especially the melee front, for ranged, I had to go with bows and crossbows. It is a fantasy setting. But for melee weapons, instead of having longsword, scimitar, dagger, I have categories of weapons: small weapon, light weapon, flexible weapon, and powerful weapon.
There we go.
I don't care what that weapon is. You tell me what it is. You want to use a scythe? Use a scythe. You want a spear that does 2d6 damage finally? You can have a spear that does 2d6 damage finally. Because all the system cares about is the mechanic. You are the creative person. You are the person with your character concept. So if I want to wield a giant scythe, I will say I have a powerful weapon that deals slice damage. And then I'm going to say, this is a scythe. That easy.
I do something very similar in Grimwood.
It's great. Let the people decide what they have.
I do separate it by slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning, but it's all the same. I really could just put it as one. But I have monsters that are immune to those types of damage. So
I do something very similar, and depending on which style of damage you do, determines which status effect it could inflict. So there is a mechanic. It's all mechanics. The only thing that's in this book is mechanics. I will say this: if you're somebody who loves a lot of art, and you love a lot of flowery language, and you love a lot of descriptions, and you love a lot of, that's not going to be in this book. This book is 60 pages, so I almost look at it like an instruction manual more than a book. 30 pages of it is everything that the player needs to know. 30 pages of it is everything that your Legend Master is going to know. Super quick, easy to reference. it's no nonsense. This comes from me being an ADHD kid and carrying around tomes of books or scrolling through hundreds of pages to find the mechanic I need. That drove me crazy. So I understand. I totally understand if you're the kind of person that loves art and settings and lore and descriptive language that gives you an idea. That's not going to be in this game. This game tries to get out of your way for that kind of stuff and just find what you need mechanically and move on with your amazing idea.
Nice. Well, I appreciate that. Definitely. So where can people get this now? Like, what's going?
Yeah.
Are you releasing it? Like that type of thing.
Great question. We're in an interesting spot right now. The book is finished. The only thing is, I have a friend who is a wonderful artist who wants to do pencil sketches, almost like concept art for movies, for animated movies and things.
Right.
And I love that. I love the idea because it shows like potential, right? And so in the margins of the book, we want to put in all of those sketches. But of course, my friend is going to take time to do that, and I'm a teacher for my day job, and summer's here. I want to release this book. So if you go to the Tales of Legend website, which is legendarytalesrpg.com, there is chat. Yay. There's the download section. You've got a free version of the rules. You've got the character sheets. You've even got a sample adventure, a lot of great stuff there. But the game right now is $20. It is right there on PDF. You can buy it straight from the website. And when my friend gives me the art and I put it in there, I'll just email it to you. Nice. I'll just email to the version with the art. I just want to get going now.
That was going to be my next question.
I want to say I have officially released the product.
Okay.
As long as people are okay with the no art part.
Are you eventually going to release a book version?
I would love to do that. That is the part I would like to kickstart.
Excellent.
And then down the road, I've got my version of, I call it the Creature Compendium. That's going to be like 300 to 500 creatures. And then I have another supplement in the works. I call it Epic Tales and Legendary Heroes, which is going to have two extra heritages, 2 extra spell options, one of which is called Change. For all of you Druid fans, you want to be able to change yourself, or you're a werewolf fan, that's going to be in that book when it comes out. And yeah, so I've got some things down the line I'm already thinking about.
Good.
Right.
Me too. It doesn't stop. Once you start, you're kind of
right. I mean, the system is done. The system is sound. It's like, oh, now I can do this. Now I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Is there anything you want the people to know before we call it? Because I think we've covered most everything that I can think of.
Sure. One last thing. If you all don't mind, please, when you go to the website and take a look and grab all the free stuff, join the Discord server. And you know, we've got about 30 people in there right now. It's not super active yet, but I'm going to do some character creation, voice chats. I'd like to do some one-shots, and I'd like to do some networking through there and just see, you know, the community getting bigger and chatting with people, and that would be really fun. And I've also started a Tales of Legend YouTube channel. There are only 2 videos on there so far. The idea right now is everything is tutorial based. So if you're somebody who loves to play board games and you like to go to the YouTube channels where they teach you how to play the game so you don't have to read the book, that's what the first like 10 videos on the YouTube channel are going to be. So please, it's Legendary Tales.
I posted it on the chat for people.
Awesome. Just keep an eye out on those. I'm going to try to make sure those happen weekly. And yeah, so that would be wonderful, especially the Discord, so I can just see people interested in the game. That'd be really great.
Yeah, definitely. Join his Discord and go ahead and subscribe to his YouTube because his 2 videos have been very informative, and it's great. I guess let's find somebody to raid, because that's part of the experience of Twitch. Let's see here. Nope. Let's see who is going on right now. Ooh, there's not that many people on right now.
The night's still young.
Oh, Rowan's doing. Let's go. I know what we're doing. Hold on one sec. We're gonna raid Rowan search and filter podcast. We're gonna go over to them. Rowan's Den Podcasts. They recently did something with me. They did a nice little intro for me. It was really cool. I think they're doing some Pathfinder, it looks like. So let's go over there and say hi. Thank you, Andy, for coming. I really appreciate it, and it was a lot of fun. Mike, as
Thanks for having me.
always, we appreciate you. All right, going over there in about 3. So we'll go raid them and say hi to them. And thank you for coming by. Here we go.